Are custom maps better than official Treyarch maps? What makes a quality zombie map? Is Treyarch losing their passion for zombies? All of these questions and more here on the second episode of the Mystery Box Podcast. Good morning, you beautiful people. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day today. Welcome to the second episode of the Mystery Box Podcast. Today we are talking about custom maps, custom zombies, and are they better than Treyarch maps? Let me please start off with a huge disclaimer. I am very early into my custom map journey. I've played a dozen or so, maybe a little bit more. I've seen a lot of custom maps, but I haven't played. I've barely scratched the surface as to what's on offer on the Black Ops 3 workshop. And there is going to be a lot of criticism in this podcast about custom maps. You're going to hear a lot of criticism, but I want to make sure that you people know, and everybody knows, there is so much respect, admiration, and appreciation that I have for everybody involved in the custom map process. There is so much stuff that goes into each and every single map. Whether or not I criticize it or not, it is a truly incredible thing that we have these maps in the first place. People doing this as a side job on, for free on the side in their extra time. It's great. And of course, I reserve the right to change my mind and more articulately explain myself in a future video. This podcast is kind of a, discussion, thinking out loud type of thing. But I think now specifically is a wonderful time to talk about custom zombies because we're in this void between the last Treyarch installment and the next Treyarch installment. And so custom zombies gives us a really interesting lens to look at zombie mechanics and what we like, what we don't like. And so I want to take a look at these custom maps and criticize them objectively. I don't want to bash anybody's hard work, and that's what this disclaimer is here for. I'm not trying to bash your hard work. I'm not trying to say that, this zombie map is terrible because of X, Y, and Z, therefore you shouldn't enjoy it whatsoever. No, if you enjoy it, you enjoy it, which, spoiler alert, that's kind of how this podcast is going to wind up and end up here. But let's talk about the big question in the room. Are custom maps better than Treyarch maps? I've been putting up a couple polls in the past couple weeks, and I gotta say, these are the most surprising results that I've seen from polls ever on my channel. I thought my demographic, the people who love Black Ops 4, who love Cold War, would really be in defense of Treyarch, being like, nah, man, Treyarch maps are awesome. Most of you guys said, no, custom maps are better than Treyarch maps, which is crazy to me, which is insane that it's that, proportionate. It wasn't even close. It was, I think it was like 90% said yes. I'll have to check the numbers, but it was a majority that said custom maps are better, which is so surprising to me. There's clearly an admiration for what custom maps do. But what makes a map better than an official Treyarch map? Or you could ask, what makes a map competitive with a Treyarch map? What makes something of Treyarch quality? And do custom maps have things that are of Treyarch's quality? And I think that is an easy answer. That's an easy yes. There are a ton of things within a ton of custom maps that are of Treyarch's quality, of that very polished and professional and well-designed routine. And I think that is a big victory for custom maps. I can think of a lot of side quests and Easter eggs and just environmental designs that are really well done, that kind of blow you away once you're into them. In fact, I'd noticed that quite a bit. Atmosphere is one of the biggest things that custom maps get right. I think that is one of the biggest pluses of the Black Ops 3 engine and having all the lighting and the fancy stuff on a sort of modern console, I guess now. Well, console, you can say that. But something that I think is more interesting, at least to me, is the question of if a custom map were to be released under the name Treyarch, would it be widely accepted? In other words, if Treyarch released X custom map, would people like it? And I asked you beautiful people this question. I put up a poll, and a lot of you said yeah, which was, again, surprising. I think a lot of you guys think about this map or that map. If that map were released, under the name of Treyarch, then of course it would be, widely praised and popular. But I think this is where we kind of diverge a little bit, because I personally think in all of the custom maps that I've not only played, but also seen online, I don't think there's a map that could be released by Treyarch and have it be as widely praised as some of their other work, or as they are in the custom map community. But moving past that, Donuts, why do you think that Treyarch maps are better than custom maps? Why don't you think custom maps hold up to the same scrutiny that a Treyarch map has to? Well, I think the first, and personally, my biggest problem with custom maps has to be reused assets. Now, I know, Donuts, you're crazy because Donuts isn't Zombies just reused assets from World at War, Black Ops 1, all the way to Cold War and Vanguard. Isn't Zombies just full of reused assets? And you're absolutely right. But I think there's a huge problem with, well, a huge problem, not a huge problem. I think there's a big difference between Cold War reusing a campaign asset or a multiplayer asset and a zombie map reusing an entire zombie asset. And I think custom zombies tends to be filled with ideas, stories, game mechanics that are next to or adjacent to official map ideas. And unfortunately, a lot of the more popular ones kind of fall under this category too. I'm gonna pick on Europa here because it's kind of the perfect example for a lot of things. Again, whoever made Europa, I know you're a very popular content creator on the workshop too, so I'm not, again, all respect towards you, all that stuff, but Europa is basically Moon 2.0. But it's a little different, and honestly, I think it's a little worse than Moon. Anyway, Water Park Zombies, which I don't think has ever been released yet, right? I think, isn't there some drama with that? I don't know, but Water Park Zombies, as it was being developed, I was looking at it, I was watching it, I watched some pizza streams, some codename pizza streams, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, this is just Zombies in Spaceland, but in a water park. Like, Daybreak is a beautiful map. It's hopefully you guys have seen it by now. I don't know, I've recorded it. But it's town, and it's kind of Black Ops, or it's not town, it's Diner from Black Ops 2, but on the Daybreak, on the next day. The Iron Dragon, very popular recent one. The Iron Dragon is basically Origins and Eisendrache mixed together, right? And the problem with that, and most, I would say most custom maps don't have unique wonder weapons and don't have unique boss zombies. That's why a map like Shoot House, which, if you haven't seen it, link to that on my channel here, way surprised me because it had a unique wonder weapon. That is very uncommon to have a unique wonder weapon in your map. That's why I think a lot of people like Leviathan, because that has a unique wonder weapon and a unique specialist too. But I think it's a unique specialist. It feels like a unique specialist, but not having a new boss zombie, not having a new wonder weapon, not having a new location or even a new idea, that is a big hurdle for me to get on board with, especially when you're asking the question, if this were released as an official Treyarch map, I would be like, well, no, because it's reusing this, it's not a new that, it's not a new that. And while we're talking about it, even Shoot House, which has original perks, it has the original wonder weapon, yes, it has the Panzer, but it also has wraps, which you could technically argue they were in the boss fight from Gorod Krovi, but it's new enough, I guess. Even that map feels like an Origins 2.0. Even that map, the map creator said this is basically Origins 2. He said this is meant to be a sequel to Origins. So it's not necessarily a new idea. But when thinking about Treyarch Zombies and when thinking about what makes a successful Treyarch Zombies map, revisiting an idea versus exploring a completely new idea that has never been done before, the new idea tends to be more popular, tends to be more successful. When you think about the best maps of all time, it's stuff that we hadn't seen before. Origins, Shadows, Mob of the Dead, Der Eisendrache, Ancient Evil, 9. Like, those are brand new ideas. We'd never seen anything like it before. And you're probably screaming at your screen right now if you know this channel, if you know me. Black Ops 4, if you take away the Chaos maps and you just look at the Aether maps, they're all remakes. They're all reimaginings. There's no unique boss zombie. There's no unique wonder weapon. They're all just the same thing reskinned. And you're talking to a Black Ops 4 fanboy, and I think the Aether maps are probably the roughest and worst part about Black Ops 4 for that very reason. The Aether maps of Black Ops 4 don't push the envelope forward. They don't innovate in any sort of meaningful way. Yes, they have unique quests. Yes, they have unique Easter eggs, and the Wonder Weapon quests are a bit different. And yes, technically, the Ray Gun Mark IIs function very differently from the regular ray guns, but it's still something not as exciting as an Ancient Evil. If you were to ask me, and this is a very, very difficult question, if you were to ask me, Donuts, would you rather have something like Alpha Omega, something like Classified? Would you rather have a reimagining, a remake of Transit, but it's the best version of Transit? It's the best Transit you've ever played. Would you rather have that? Or would you rather have a completely new experience, a completely random experience? It could be really good, could be really bad. Personally, objectively, I would pick the new experience most days out of the week. I would pick the new experience because from an official Treyarch standpoint, I don't want them to revisit things. I don't want them to reuse the same concepts because, as we've seen in Alpha Omega and Tag Toten and even Mob of the Dead and what's the other one, Classified, it doesn't always pan out well. Now, of course, that's not the first time we've seen Treyarch revisit stuff. We have the Giant and Zombies Chronicles, but I would argue those are less offensive because those were bonus maps. And that's how I took Classified too. I took Classified as a bonus map. So it was something that, yeah, this really isn't the mainline entry, but it's a safe bet. It's a fun slide bonus map that's really familiar with you. That's the same thing with the Giant. The Shadows of Evil was so crazy and so new, and not a lot of people liked it off launch. So they had the Giant to kind of bridge that gap between the old and the new. It's something familiar. It's something safe that they could play on this new game, but also kind of give them exposure to the new engine, to the new game, and the new storyline and whatsoever. But I think Alpha Omega, Tag Toten, even, Blood of the Dead, maybe took it too far because the best version of those maps can only be so good. I would rather have an Ancient Evil. I'd rather have a Dead of the Night. I'd rather have a 9 or even a Voyage of Despair over another Alpha Omega or Tag Toten. I know it's a controversial take, especially from a Black Ops 4 fanboy, but I think that's how important Zombies being new and fresh and innovative is for each and every single map. I remember, and some of you people might remember too, at the launch of Cold War, I was so worried. One of the biggest worries I had, because I knew Cold War was underdeveloped. I knew it was under that shortened development time. I was worried that we would get reused asset after reused asset, and like we did in the Aether maps of Black Ops 4. So, and I don't know if you guys remember, but there was actually a rumor that we had Nocturne Tone in D Machine, but there were rumors that part of Shin and Numa would be in Firebase E, and part of Kino der Toten would be in Malware der Toten. And that was just the most frustrating thing for me, because I'm like, no, I want new content. In order for a game or a movie franchise or anything to be better, to grow their audience, they need to try to do new and unique things. They need to, when you rely too much on the past, it becomes harder to create those new experiences. It's something that I think 6v6 Call of Duty is doing right now. A lot of people in that community are like, I want this map to come back, that map to come back, but they're not giving new maps a chance. And I don't want to see Zombies go down that route. But that has more to do with remakes and reimaginings than custom Zombies, I guess. But I think that's the emotion, that's the feeling I get from custom Zombies of, hey, this really isn't a new experience. This isn't something that I've never experienced before. This is the same thing that I've experienced, but maybe mixed up in a different way. And I've been watching lots of Jason Blundell interviews in the past couple of weeks. I've been watching a lot of zombie stuff, honestly. And I want us to watch this clip together here. So let's take a look at this clip.
I've always seen Zombies as a continual experimentation. Mm-hmm. I don't want it to turn into just the production mill. I don't, and by the way, the temptation would be so easy for it to be that. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's many a person would say to me, yeah, that works. So we just add those things that work and put it together, and there's another map favorite for the fans. I think that's squandering and wasting the opportunity we have here at Treyarch, because these guys are all talented, experienced individuals who've been working together for years. I think squandering that opportunity. And this extends, I hope you're seeing this, this extends far beyond shooting this.
Yes.
This is about everything.
Absolutely.
And these these examples every so often, I'm sure there's a couple more of them, are really about try something different, try and see, put frustrations in, put things that are complicated in, put easy things in. What about the mixture of those? What about the subliminal suggestion of something, mixing these all together? And that's how I'd answer your hard question.
Now, obviously, Jason Blundell doesn't work at Zombies anymore, but I think that sentiment is huge for the community and huge for what Treyarch should do. I think once they become that production mill of just taking this that works, and making a map out of it, I think that's where they're going to go wrong. Now, contrary to popular belief, I don't think that's what Cold War Zombies is. I think people hear that word production mill and they associate that with Cold War and Vanguard because, hey, they have to make zombie maps, and Activision's making and make zombie maps, so of course that's the production mill that they're talking about. But I think Jason here wasn't talking about that. I mean, I'm sure that's part of what he was talking about, but I think there's another part that he was talking about, that he meant that he wanted his maps to be experimental. He wanted his maps to be something like that we've never experienced before. He didn't want to take the best of Dryzen and the best of Shadows of Evil and the best of Origins and Mob and Ancient Evil and just make another map with all of those things. I think he wanted, I don't think I know, he wanted to be provocative. He wanted to do things in different ways and see how people reacted. In so many hours of interviews, that's his personality. He wanted to throw things at us as the players and go, how do you feel about this? Okay, now what if I change this? How do you feel about that now? You know, and that's why we got the Zetsubo Easter egg with the Gobblegum. That's a fun story I think he was talking about in that video. And I think custom maps kind of do exactly what he was saying that he doesn't want to do. I think custom maps go, hey, I really like this thing from Moon. I really like this thing from Shadows. I really like this thing from Origins. And hey, we're going to put it all together. And what do you know? I got this map, you know? And I think that's a big reason for me where I can't say that these maps are better or could be released by Treyarch more so, because the whole point, the whole thing of custom maps are that we are taking assets from zombies to make other zombie maps. Like the whole point is that there isn't unique assets to these guys. It's just the assets that we have from zombies. And that's the inherent weakness of custom zombies, in my opinion, is that Treyarch gave us a sandbox and gave us all the tools and the coding and the stuff to use in that sandbox. And when we make something out of it, even if it's repackaged in a different way, even though it's a unique map, it reuses a lot of experiences. It reuses a lot of ideas and scripts and Easter eggs and assets and textures that are from other maps. And so just from that standpoint alone, I have a hard time saying that, yes, this custom map is better than anything Treyarch could have ever released. And you'll notice that when custom maps do make something unique, when custom maps do make something that they've never seen before, like the Shoot House Wonder Weapon, like the Leviathan map and Wonder Weapon and some of those assets, like the entirety of Nightmare, those are renowned as the best maps of all of custom zombies because they're unique. But of course, it's not just the fact that custom maps are reused assets, because I can get past that. Why else do I not think that custom maps could kind of go toe-to-toe with Treyarch maps? Well, this is a hard one because, and this is one where it's going to sound pretty weird, and, you know, help me out, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like there's a little bit of less polish, and basically I feel like Treyarch maps are more tightly designed than custom maps are. And I have a good couple examples here. It could be anything from, you know, nothing too game breaking, and none of these things are too game breaking, by the way. This is just a tightness of design. Lighting on a lot of these maps is very dark and very awkward. Like, I feel like they're going for something, but it doesn't quite hit the way I think they meant it to hit. I think the Iron Dragon in moments is very dark and very flat and bland. And same thing with Europa too. Again, all respect to these map creators, I gotta say, not trying to start beef, I'm just trying to comment and criticize from what I see. Sometimes the maps are very dark. Leviathan can get dark a little bit. Europa feels really dull and flat in its color palette. It doesn't feel super immersive, or I don't know, like the lighting is just kind of weird. People say that it looks really good, but I don't know. The skybox in Europa does look good if you're looking at Jupiter, but if you look at the other side of the skybox, it's just a blue skybox and it's just snowing. So it's not quite as cool as I think other people think it is. But yeah, a lot of maps feel really flat, and obviously you have the silly Simpsons map, which is just ridiculous. But more so, the lighting feels weird on some things, but also there are things that affect the gameplay. I feel like there are a lot of comments that I see about custom maps talking about the doors. And at first I thought, oh my goodness, people and their doors, they're obsessed with their doors. And then I played custom maps, and holy moly, there's so many doors on some of these maps. I'm gonna poke fun here at the Iron Dragon and Leviathan, because those are the two that I have the most experience with. The Iron Dragon has so many doors, but then Leviathan blew it out of the water, pun intended, with how many doors there are to open. It's crazy how many doors there are. Again, these are things that don't break the map. These are things that don't make the map bad in any sort of way, but they're just little tiny things, oversights maybe, that I don't think Treyarch would have made. I know Zetsubo no Shima's criticized for how many doors it has, or more specifically how expensive those doors were, but the maps themselves are pretty well designed. And I am going to poke a little bit here at Leviathan, because I think of the custom maps that I've played so far, I agree with a lot of the majority of people here, and in thinking that Leviathan is one of the closest things to a Treyarch map that we've had in custom maps. Very well designed. It's a World at War custom map remade in Black Ops 3, so they've had a lot of time to think about and to really exercise creativity in all of their ideas. There's a Revelation style hat system that they threw in there, no doubt because of how long they were able to think about and create this map. But if you watched the first playthrough that I have of it, the the very frustrating experience that I had with it, it took me an embarrassingly long amount of time to find the power switch. It took me, I'm going to say 20 to 25 minutes to find the power switch because I opened up every other door except for the power switch. And I could have sworn, I'll have to go back and check the footage, but I could have sworn I was looking for the little electric arrow that goes to the power room the whole time. I was looking for it the whole time. I was trying to use my best gaming mind of, okay, if I was a game designer, where would I put it? And I always went down, okay, I would go here, and then I would naturally want to go here. And here's this big room that looks really fancy. Looks like it has something in it. No, the power switch is in this random corner of the map that has nothing to do with anything. And the only arrow that I've seen, the little power arrow, is in the same room as the power switch. That's not useful whatsoever, And the thing is, now that I know where the power switch is, it's not a problem. It doesn't detract from the map whatsoever to me. But if that were a Treyarch map, if Treyarch released Leviathan, how many times would somebody miss the power? Probably not as much because I'm a noob, I'm a scrub, and I'm not good at video games apparently. But that's something that Treyarch has to think about. Is it my fault that I missed the power switch, or is it the game's fault that it allowed me to explore the entire of that huge map? Leviathan is a huge map, and it's cool that it's huge, but I went to the biodome, I went to the Easter egg spots and all of these other things, and I didn't find the power switch. Yes, it's my fault because I'm an idiot, but in order to make their game more enjoyable, Treyarch makes design choices that help players guide players to the power switch. And one of the best examples of this is Der Eisendrache. Der Eisendrache's power switch, you would look at it and you would think, well, that's kind of a not important room. It has stamina up in it, but other than that, it doesn't really feel all that important in terms of the scale of the map. You might think, oh, the power switch is in the Undercroft near the pyramid or in the computer room with all those electronics. But think about what happens when you start a game of Der Eisendrache, right? If you go on the right side, the normal side, go through double tap, you go through the lower courtyard, you go up through the bedrooms, and you're in that hallway with the knight statues, right? You're in the hallway with the knight statues, and you look down the long hallway, and the only way you can go, apart from the door, which we'll get to, this long hallway, all of the lines are pointing to the power switch. And at the end of that line, there's a light on the power switch. So Treyarch is guiding you with these long lines and lighting to the power switch. You can't miss it. And that room is a dead end because there are power doors that you can't go to the death ray. There's a power door in the computer room going down the stairs. Actually, no, there's a power door to the actual computer room too, so you can't get into it that way. You can't explore most of Der Eisendrache until you turn on the power. Now, if you go who goes the left way, except speedrunners, I guess. If you go to the left way up through the tunnels, through Mule Kick, you go to the upper courtyard, you can go up to the computer room through the top doors, which again, who opens those? You can go through the top way. And again, the only way to go, you can't go down, you have to go into that long hallway room. And other than circling back around to spawn, that's the only branch of Der Eisendrache that you can go down. So they designed that map so purposefully. They made that hallway long. They made that light right there to guide players to the power switch so that nobody would get lost. When I first played Leviathan, even though it was all my fault that I got lost and I'm an idiot for not opening that door, it's such a huge, complicated map on your first playthrough. That's a bad first impression. And how many times does that bad first impression have on players who don't feel like investing into zombies, who players don't feel like investing into learning the map? Oh my goodness, I spent 15 minutes. I can't even turn on power. I'm not going to play this garbage map. That's the sort of emotion that could create. That's the opportunity that the map maker could have created in their player base. Whereas Treyarch designed their map to funnel that player into the power switch to naturally progress the story, to naturally progress the gameplay. This is what I'm talking about. This is such a fascinating part of Zombies that I hadn't even thought about until I played this map. I really am loving these custom maps. This is so cool. And there's a lot of good stuff about custom maps too, but this is interesting to me to talk about how Treyarch does these things. And, you know, in Daybreak, and this is a side tangent, by the way, Daybreak, the guy, the genius behind the map put basketball hoops on these barrels that you threw grenades to, and they shot up fireworks. And yeah, it's a lot more obvious than other things, but it was really fun to figure out that Easter egg. And the way they put them, I don't know, the way they put them outside the map and the positions they put all of the pieces within that map on Daybreak, the shield pieces, the trample steam pieces, made so much video game sense. And there's some really cool, well-designed stuff in these maps that's really fun to think about and fun to look at. And so those sorts of things happen where I'm like, yes, that's exactly something like Treyarch would do. But then you have these little tiny things like the power situation and the door situation and lighting and stuff that it feels a little bit different. It feels a little bit like, that's not quite something. I think Treyarch would have caught that in testing. I think Treyarch would have been like, too many people aren't getting to the power switch. Too many people are trying to do this instead of that. I think there's more guidance in Treyarch maps, which is super, super interesting to me. And I'm going to go back to picking on Europa here because this is a beautiful example of something else that I think Treyarch would have caught early on. Europa, like I said, and if you played the map, I think it's fair to call the map a moon, a successor to Moon. It's a moon style map. Europa, you spawn in this area, right? You spawn in this area and then you get teleported to Europa. And then from that point on, you can go left, you can go right, but both of those paths circle back into the power room, which is exactly what Moon does. You spawn in Area 51, you get teleported to the moon, and you go in a circle and you meet up in the power room. Those two paths meet up in the power room. It's a successor to Moon. But the power switch in Moon is just a power switch, right? You turn it on and boom, you're ready to go. In Europa, the power switch, you have to turn on once, you have to press the button once to initialize. You have to wait a couple seconds, then you push the button again, and you have to survive a lockdown. And at the end of the lockdown, you have to push the button again to turn on the power. And then if you want Pack-a-Punch, you have to turn on the button again. So we have one button that you need to turn on 4 times. Again, this doesn't make the map bad. This isn't like, oh my goodness, this map is unplayable, I hate this. But it's one of those things where if it were Treyarch, they would have been like, just push the button once. Push the button, you start the lockdown, you survive the lockdown, Pack-a-Punch, power's on. In fact, that's exactly what Forsaken did, right? So, in my opinion, Forsaken's Pack-a-Punch power, even though I'm not a big fan of it, kind of less tedious than Europa, right? It's just those tiny little things. It doesn't make the map terrible. It's just a fine that you just hit it a couple times. It's fine. But it's one of those things where Treyarch's a little bit tighter on their design. And Europa is also a really interesting case study because that place where Europa first spawns you in at is the boss fight room, which was a big shock to me because if you watch the video, I say, oh, Pack-a-Punch is definitely here in that video because that's how Moon works. And then we get teleported to Europa. So when Pack-a-Punch was in Europa, I was like, well, then what's that spawn point, right? Now, thinking from it, if that map were to be released by Treyarch, how many people wouldn't do the Easter egg? How many people wouldn't look up any guides and go, well, what the heck is this starting room? There's no zombies. There's just this big room with water and this pyramid right here. It would be a weird thing. It would be a weird thing for a lot of people. Now, this map was clearly designed for its Easter egg, for its boss fight, for the main quest, right? You complete the main quest and then you go to the boss fight, which is that starting room. And that is an interesting case study of certain custom maps are made just for Easter eggs. They're just made for the main quest. And that's Europa through and through. Europa is such a small, tightly made map. It's smaller than Moon. It's like Moon, but you don't have the biodome and the outside areas of the Moon. Arguably my favorite parts of Moon. But they're not there. There's no biodome, there's no nothing. It's just that one circle of Moon. And the purpose of Europa, from what I can tell from what the map maker, at least the design of Europa says, is that it's meant to be an Easter egg map. It's meant to be played for the Easter egg, which is perfectly okay. And I like certain maps. I may or may not have tried to speedrun the Simpsons map just to see if I could, because it's ridiculous and really fun. But something else about Europa, and again, Europa's a fine map. It's a fun map. It's a beautiful skybox when you're looking at Jupiter. Let me put it this way. Zetsubou no Shima was criticized quite heavily because its Easter egg was too easy, too simple, and too boring, or some combination of those words. In Europa, once you get the ability to upgrade your scavenger, once you get the keycard to be able to upgrade your scavenger, you could beat the Easter egg in one round. You can upgrade your scavenger, you can look at the TVs, you can get the code and upgrade your scavenger that very same round. That very same round, you can then take your scavenger and open the secret door. You can teleport and explode the space station, which is a cool set piece. And then you come back, you shoot down the SR-71, you turn the valves to turn the satellites to shoot the sun, and then your boss fight ready, all in one round. It's super short, it's super quick, and if that were to be an officially released map from Treyarch, people would have a heyday with it. It would be so criticized. It would be so, my goodness, it would be terrible. But because it's a custom map, it kind of gets a pass. Oh, well, it's a fun map. And it is a fun map, but it was made with a very focused intention. And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. It's just a custom map thing. But it's just another thing that Treyarch has to consider with making each and every single one of their maps. They have to consider every single playstyle. They can't make a map like Europa, which is just focused on the main quest. Now, you could argue, and it's a fair argument here, that some maps, especially Jason Blundell maps, are really made for the main quest. A lot of people think Black Ops 4's maps are made just to complete Easter eggs. But as somebody who casually plays zombies, who doesn't really go to high rounds, doesn't really do Easter eggs, plays it for the gameplay progression, the Black Ops 4 maps are some of the best gameplay progression maps ever. And same thing with Black Ops. Black Ops 3 might be the best gameplay progression maps ever, because there's just so much stuff that you can experience. And then when you add on to that, oh man, there's so many side quests, there's so many side Easter eggs, there's so many high round spots, there's so many training spots. I didn't find a lot of training spots on Europa. Leviathan had a good couple. I feel like Leviathan might be the most well-rounded in terms of side quests and Easter eggs, which again is kind of a point towards Leviathan being a really solid Treyarch style map. But Treyarch has to consider each and every single one of these playstyles with each and every single map, which is going to impact the gameplay and the progression. And again, it's just going to feel a little bit tighter, a little bit nicer for everybody in. Yes, Shadows of Evil, Origins, much more involved, much more side quests and Easter egg heavy and narrative heavy than something like Der Eisendrache or Gorod Krovi or Revelations, where it's a little bit more laid back, or Classified or Alpha Mega even, where it's kind of a simpler setup. But at the end of the day, once you're set up on those maps, it all feels pretty well designed for each and every single playstyle. Yes, there might be a preference towards this playstyle, but none so egregious as some of the custom maps that I've played so far. Now, the next issue or problem that I have with custom zombies isn't really a problem with custom zombies. It's more so a praise of Treyarch and their innovation, because that's the thing, innovation. Custom maps are stuck in Black Ops 3, and there's a lot of things about these custom maps that kind of feel outdated. The biggest one for me are buildables and the buildable shield, and after Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4 and making so many guides on this part has 3 locations in 3 different parts of the map, it's just like, why do we need to do this? Why does everyone just give me a shield, give me a piece of armor? Like, it feels a little bit outdated. And of course, your feelings on the shield may vary, but especially when it comes to buildables, though. Buildables, especially in custom maps, when there's different spots for them and there's different locations, a lot of people, and a lot of custom maps, I would imagine, there's not a whole lot of replayability to them because they are a little bit shallower of an experience than Treyarch maps. So when you have to look up a guide for something basic like a shield on a custom map, it feels kind of different than a Treyarch map, because it's like, well, Treyarch map I'm going to play a lot longer versus a custom map where I'm not going to get too invested into it. Now, and I guess that's not fair to say, because if it's something like Leviathan, and maybe this scales, again, trying to figure out my thoughts here, maybe this scales with how big and complex the map is, how replayable the map is, because something on like Europa has set spawns for the shield. And I think that's the best way to do it. I think that's so good because every time you play that map, it's going to be there, and there. Okay, I know this map. It's a smaller map. It's a less replayable map, but I think it knows that. And that's why those shield pieces are in set locations. But if they were randomized, it's like, how many people are going to memorize all of these 9 different locations for all these buildables in every single map? Something like Daybreak, I don't know all the spawn locations of Daybreak, of the Trample Steam, of the Shield, so it might be a little bit less intuitive or enjoyable, I guess, to get that shield, to get that buildable, whatever it is. A lot of the times it just becomes tedious to get these buildables in these custom maps, in my opinion, and that's kind of a thing that we've dealt with already. Like Cold War Vanguard doesn't really have that, and on a bigger scale, I'm not just talking about the buildables here, there's so many other things that zombies can experience, that zombies can experiment with, that's outside of the classic zombie systems. That's outside of Black Ops 3 and even Black Ops 4 a little bit. Longtime fan, well, not even longtime fans. If you're fans of this channel, you know that I love Black Ops 4. You know that I appreciate and love Cold War. You know I love modern zombies, and I'm really excited for where zombies is going. There's so much left to experience with salvage and armor and craftables and weapon progression and the 3-tier pack-a-punch and specialist from Black Ops 4 and field upgrades. There's just a whole other sandbox that Treyarch gets to play with that Black Ops 3 custom mods seemingly struggle to play around with. Now, I know coding and scripting is a whole lot different than like map geo and the asset creation and all that stuff, so I'm not saying that it's a negative of custom maps, but it's something that Treyarch has the benefit of. They are innovating with these new mechanics. Even if Treyarch's maps in Cold War were pulled from the campaign, they have the benefit of having a completely new system of zombies that we've never experienced before, and that's really awesome. Now, within this Treyarch versus custom map makers sort of discussion debate here, there's a lot of talk about, well, Treyarch is this AAA studio, and oh my goodness, they have all of this money and all of these resources and all these people. And custom maps are made by 2 people and a dog on their day off on weekends at night, in the middle of the night. Like there's a lot of defense of custom map makers, and those are very valid excuses. Those are very valid reasons. And it's a very cool thing that we have people so passionate about zombies working on this stuff for free. But for as admirable as that sentiment is of having these people create these things with these limitations and not having a AAA studio backing them, all of that doesn't matter to the players who just download this map off of Steam. As soon as they load up the map, if it's good, they'll enjoy it, but if it's bad, if it's not an enjoyable experience, it doesn't matter to them why. It doesn't matter that only one guy created this. It doesn't matter that this was made on somebody's spare time off of work. All that matters with any sort of consumer product, whether that's food from a restaurant or a movie, television series, or a video game or a zombie map, all that matters to the consumer is the end product. And this is something that Kevin Drew, the new leader of Zombies, I think, an important role in Zombies, has said in a tweet during Vanguard Zombies. Even with an amazing team, there are circumstances beyond their control that can impact a game. Development time, budget, and meeting consumer demands, to name a few. Ultimately, that should not matter to the person playing the game. As the consumer, it is their right to play it and form an opinion, negative or positive, and voice that. Yeah, he tweeted this during Vanguard Zombies, and that's clearly making a statement, and it's a very true statement. The only thing that matters is the end product. The difference, the unfortunate and terrible difference, in my opinion, is that when a custom map is of low quality or doesn't have the polish or the fun or the whatever it is as much as a Treyarch title does, then the community binds together and goes, but this was only made by one person in this circumstance, in this situation. And they get all the excuses and they get the free pass. But then when Treyarch releases something like Vanguard Zombies, they're automatically so scrutinized because guess what? Vanguard Zombies was made in like a couple months, and I doubt that the entire team at Treyarch was working on Vanguard Zombies. I think it was a small team working on Vanguard Zombies, but all of those excuses, as Kevin Drew said, doesn't matter. Those excuses mean nothing to the consumer. And I just agree with that statement. I agree with that sentiment so much that it transfers over to custom maps. So yes, Leviathan is a great map. Yes, Leviathan is really high quality. But if it were to release as a Treyarch product, there is an expectation that it's a new idea, that it's something different. And the fact of the matter is that Leviathan still has jump pads. It still has a moon type of atmosphere with the water and the PED suit, the PES suit, the aquatic suit. It still has the astronaut, which is just an underwater astronaut, a scuba diver, whatever. It has jumping jacks. It still is an inspiration from Moon. It's a sequel to Moon. It's a different way of playing Moon. And when there's a different custom map with bad lighting or a weird bug or a weird glitch or the thing not being as tightly designed, I don't care why. I don't care that it was a custom map. I don't care that it was made by 4 people on their weekends and days off. I just care about the product. And I get that sounds really harsh. I care about the philosophy. That's my channel. I care about the game design behind it. And it's really fascinating. There are amazing things about custom maps, but when criticizing them, I think the community gives people a free pass, give custom maps a free pass, and therefore elevates those custom maps above something like Treyarch maps, like even D Machine and Mauer der Toten and Forsaken even. Those in their minds, because it's a AAA studio, but it's not the best the AAA studio has given out. It's so much worse than custom maps, which may not be as good quality, but because it's a custom map, oh my goodness, can you imagine? Like, only one person made this, and it's just inflated that bias in their minds. And I think that is something that I fundamentally disagree with. Nightmare is one of the most popular custom maps downloaded. It might be the most popular, it might not be the most downloaded, but I think it's one of the most popular custom maps. But it's not even zombies. And the hypocrisy, in my opinion, of the zombies community is the fact that it not being zombies is used as a praise of it. Oh my goodness, look at what we can create on Black Ops 3 mod tools. It's insane. It's so cool that it's not even zombies, which is very true. It's very true. It's cool that it's not even zombies. And it's one of the coolest, most unique, and well-polished maps out there. Incredibly fun. I'm terrified to play it. I'm literally terrified to play it. But if Treyarch were to have released Nightmare, I don't think it would be received super well. I think it'd be received kind of weird. I think it'd be a cult classic. I think it'd kind of be like an Extinction type thing where a small group of people would really love it and be like, oh my goodness, we want more zombie maps like this. But I think the popular, I guess the bigger portion of the community would be like, it's cool, but it's not zombies. That's not what we expect from Treyarch. And that's just another bias from what we expect from Treyarch versus what we expect from custom zombies. But now let's flip the script here. What if an official Treyarch map was released as a custom map? This is going to be so controversial. Oh, this whole video is controversial. I'm so sorry, beautiful people. If Firebase Z was released as a custom map, it would be one of the most popular custom maps ever. The Ray K, it's sort of like a ray gun Mark III, but has alternate firing modes. There's a defense staff with this big order, huge boss fight that we've never seen in zombies before. The main quest, I guess that's the order. But then the kill streaks with the thing, discounting the Cold War mechanics, kill streaks. But, that defense round, the unique wonder weapon, manglers are in it, and this new mimic thing that, pretends to be drops on the ground. That would be so popular on the custom map market. It's crazy to me that people hate it so much in regular Treyarch maps. It's crazy that people don't like Firebase. It's so weird. It's so weird. But also, I think that same sentiment could be said for something like an Outbreak. It's sort of similar to what I feel about Nightmare. If Outbreak, the idea of Outbreak, if custom maps came up with an Outbreak type mode where you're going through this huge map, you're looting stuff, you're getting your perks, you're completing these objectives, and you're spawning in on a new map, it would be one of the most popular custom maps ever because it's a great idea. But then Treyarch releases it, and we're sitting here, 2023, new zombie game, Outbreak. Everyone's disappointed. Everyone's upset. Outbreak is terrible. Outbreak is trash. It's not even zombies. It's totally different. It's boring. It's a weird how the sentiment is different between Treyarch zombies and custom map zombies. This doesn't exactly have to do with what I'm saying, but we give Leviathan, one of the best maps, again, I'll say it again, one of the best maps, custom maps I've ever played. We give that map the excuse, whatever, we give them grace on how freaking complicated that map is. It is a labyrinth of map design. There's so many different routes, so many different doors, so many different ways to go. And we're okay with it. It's one of the best zombie maps ever created. Oh my goodness, DLC 6 or whatever we crown it as. But then we get Voyage of Despair, which has 3 different routes you can go. and we somehow cannot figure out the map layout of Voyage of Despair. It makes no sense. I don't understand it. Like, I'm not saying that Leviathan is super complex. It's complex the first couple times you play it, but I got it down now. You kind of understand where you're going. This connects to that. This goes there. It goes underwater, you know. But it's so much more complicated than Voyage of Despair. I don't understand why we give custom map makers all of these reasons and grace and excuses that we don't give to official Treyarch maps. And it's not just because of the bigger map design. And like I said, it has nothing to do with the situation. It shouldn't have anything to do with the situation. We should judge a piece of content based on what we think of the piece of content, not the surrounding situation of that piece of content. Because after all, and here's the big up to this, beautiful people, at the end of the day, Treyarch is made of people. Custom map makers are people who are passionate about zombies, who want to make good zombie content. Treyarch is full of developers that are people, that are human, that want to make good zombie content. Every single person who makes zombie maps, I believe, has a passion for zombies, that wants to create the best experience they can, whether or not they're doing it as a custom map maker or an official Treyarch developer. Every single person, I believe, most people, 99% of the developers, want to create something special, fun, and engaging. They want to create a good experience. And the fact this whole podcast is a sham, because why would we ever pit these things against each other? That does nobody good to say, well, Leviathan is bad because of this, or, well, Treyarch is bad because of this. It's all content. It's all made to be fun. It's all made with the purpose of having fun and creating a unique experience. Custom maps do an amazing job at taking ideas from Treyarch, or ideas that they have in their mind, and making one map focused on that idea alone, having their own creative spin on them, flesh out this aspect of gameplay, taking that thing that they like we said earlier, and taking this other thing that they like from earlier and making a new thing from two old things. It's not what Treyarch does. It's different. It's a different purpose than what Treyarch does. But it's still just as fun. It still can be polished. It still can be a great experience. It still can be valid as zombies. And what Treyarch does, that innovation, that higher level of standard and purpose, and that more all-around tightly designed thing, can appeal to everybody. They can push the storyline forward, which I didn't mention, but Treyarch is kind of the head of the story, which you can't really judge a custom map based on its story, just because that's kind of not fair. It's a bonus if they have it, but anyway. But then Treyarch can innovate brand new ideas out of nowhere, like we see from Cold War, that we've never experienced before. Even, oh, this is going to get me killed. Even like the shield wonder weapon from Vanguard Zombies, the talking shield. Yeah, it's a shield, but it's that Treyarch reaching for, I want a new experience. I don't just want another thunder gun, even though it's kind of just another thunder gun. It's a unique way of a character in this one. Like it's so interesting how Treyarch innovates, and that's just as valid. And that's Forsaken being the way it is, and Cold War and Outbreak and Onslaught being the way they are, is just developers wanting to make a fun zombies experience. And when I see this war of custom maps and Treyarch and them fighting, and having popular YouTubers saying, oh my goodness, Treyarch has lost their passion for zombies, it's just sad. It's just like, you don't get what these developers are doing it for. They have so much care. They have so much desire to make something really fun for the community. That's why we got Vanguard Zombies. That's why we got Sheena Numa, because they heard us and they went, you want Sheena Numa, or you want a round-based mode? Well, we want to make you happy. We want to do something that'll make you smile. And they made the best version of Sheena Numa. Yes, it's not the best situation, but guess what? It's probably the best Sheena Numa we've ever had. Treyarch has passion still. And I know a lot of people have left. I know Zombies is in a weird state right now, but all Zombies, like everything, custom maps, Black Ops 4, Black Ops 3, Cold War, Vanguard, they all have valid experiences. Custom maps, they all have valid experiences. And this goes beyond custom maps too. Black Ops 3, there's a lot of Black Ops 3 versus Cold War in the specifically Call of Duty Zombies subreddit. But Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4, Black Ops 2, like every single map, every single game has something so zombies about it. And custom maps is no different. This is a new way I've been thinking about it. It's a pretty cool little analogy here. So listen up here. All right. Treyarch maps or official maps, I think about as like big blockbuster movies, the good kind, the classic blockbuster movies, right? Custom maps are like the spin-off TV show of that big blockbuster movie, right? The TV show gets to slow down a little bit and really, truly explore the themes and ideas set up in the big blockbuster movie, but maybe they didn't spend too much time on. They get to take this little aspect and create a whole, couple story arc over that. Sometimes I think about it like, Treyarch maps, the official maps is like the Star Wars original trilogy or the prequels, and custom maps are like the Clone Wars and Rebels, where they get to slow down a little bit and explore this aspect of the lore and go explore this storyline. And that's exactly what Custom Zombies does. They take this aspect and go, I want a map with this in it, or more of this in it, or less of that in it, and they make it their own thing. Some custom maps realize their idea beautifully, but would never stand up to the wide scrutiny that the big audience does that Treyarch has to appeal to. There is so much good zombie content to explore with custom maps. I have grown to really love custom maps. I genuinely want to experience so much more. And yes, I'll stick to my guns and say that there are not many that I would play over and over again like I would with Treyarch official maps. I don't think there's a lot of maps that could release as official Treyarch maps, but as we discussed, I don't think that's the purpose. I don't think that's a healthy way of looking at these custom maps. If you go in thinking that, then you're going to be disappointed. Then you're going to find things to criticize. You're going to find things that you don't like about these experiences. And that's not healthy. And it's not healthy for anybody. It's not good for Treyarch. It's not good for these custom map makers. And it's not good for your enjoyment. These maps are made to be fun. So let's have fun in them. This is the perfect time to get into custom maps. There is there's a good amount of time before the next official Treyarch title. So dive into custom maps. You might surprise yourself. I know it took me a long time to kind of break down my barriers to actually play these maps, but I have not regretted it so far. It's been such an interesting discussion to talk about all of these different things. As you can see, I love talking about all this stuff. So download some, tell me what you think, and tell me what map you want me to play next. Oh man, I just went this whole time and I didn't even talk about the mod side of the whole custom zombies. Well, I think mods are great. I think the gun mods are awesome. I think the pack-a-punch challenge is fun. I love the cause and effect thing. I think that's entertaining. I think a lot of these mods could take inspiration, or Treyarch could take inspiration from, and make their own sort of, I guess, custom mutation type-esque game mode. Like, I think gun game and zombies could be an easy one. Pack-a-punch challenge could be an easy one. I don't know. That's awesome. But I think that's kind of the easy to talk about stuff. I think that's just kind of, you like it or you don't sort of thing. It's kind of its own side thing. It's more fun to talk about the maps. So, but what's even more fun than talking about custom maps is, well, watching me play a custom map. So here's my Leviathan playthrough. Believe me, you will love this video. Check it out and stay beautiful.